The year is 2003. Pokémon is launching the next entry in the franchise, Ruby and Sapphire, featuring 135 Pokémon to discover in the brand new region of Hoenn, including some new legendaries that would go on to become some of the most popular Pokémon of all time. Groudon, Kyogre, Rayquaza, Deoxys, Jirachi, hell, even the Reggies have a pretty big fan base. Amongst all of these, one new duo of legendary Pokémon stuck out to me, the Eon Twins, aka Latias and Latios. Personally, I've always loved the way they are depicted. In pretty much every piece of media, they can always be seen flying through the sky or gliding across the border, which gives them this serene sense of freedom. And I think they are a really great example of the wondrous charm that fuels my love for this franchise. Compared to other legendaries of Gen 3, they don't get very much attention within the games themselves, and are kind of treated as side legendaries, if that's a term I can even coin. Carrying on that Ruby Sapphire parallel that Groudon and Kyogre also have, they are more accessible than other legendaries too, as there's more ways to get them than one per save file, so I think that kind of takes away from the legendary feel a little bit. But once you look beyond the games, that's where things get really interesting. The fifth Pokémon movie, Pokémon Heroes, released in May of 2003, 2 months after the release of Ruby and Sapphire. These movies give these two Pokémon the attention the games didn't within the anime canon, set in a new location exclusive to the anime called Alto Mare. Basically the Pokémon equivalent of Venice, and also simultaneously the closest we've ever gotten to an Italy-based region in the Pokémon franchise. Now this movie is still fairly standard as far as Pokémon anime movies go. Ash and his friends visit somewhere new, they meet a new legendary Pokémon, the evil people capture the Pokémon with the motivation of drawing its powers for their own pleasures, and then Ash and friends save the day. Whoopee. But what many don't know about this film is that upon localization, that was the entire backstory for the Eon Twins that was cut from releases outside of Japan. Not the first time this has happened before, with most famously Mewtwo's backstory in the first movie, but many do not know about this one. And the added context greatly changes the perspective you may have on the narrative of these two legendaries. Now, for the sake of immersion, I'm going to try double over the Japanese. I'm no voice actor, and I'm not even sure how accurate this translation is, but I'm going to try my best. Long ago, an elderly couple found two unconscious children washed up on the shores of the Alto Mare. They nursed the children back to health and raised them as their own, when a great evil descended upon the city in the form of a dark cloud, bringing shards of darkness. The children revealed their true forms as the legendary Pokémon, Latios and Latias. They summoned allies and used the power of the Soul Dew to vanquish the darkness. Sacrificing themselves in the process to transform into the Soul Dew, which protected the city forever. When I discovered this, a few notable things came to mind. Before we even had Pokemon like Zoroark, Pokemon cosplaying humans was already a thing in the franchise. If anything, in this story, Latias and Latios aren't presented very much like Pokemon at all. They appear to be humans. They are raised and nurtured like humans, and only after they are revealed as Pokemon are they heralded as heroes and celebrated as legendaries. At least from every standpoint other than biological, Latias and Latios are human. Latias in particular is presented as caring and compassionate towards humans, but she always chooses appearance that allow her to fit in when they are trying to live among people. And those appearances are ordinary rather than grand. It's as if she isn't interested in being admired or worshipped. More than anything, she just seems to want to be close to people. The manga even expands on this concept, including her in multiple different roles, from the Pokemon Center lady to an everyday reporter. The rest of the movie leans further into this as well from the emotional angle. In fact, the main talking point around this movie, even years later, is the scene at the end of the movie where Bianca kisses Ash, and it is left ambiguous to whether this was Bianca or Latias. Throughout the history of Pokemon, I'd still say, to this day, Latias is one of the best interpretations of empathy in any Pokemon ever introduced. These aren't Pokemon that simply coexist with humans. They actively seek to understand them. They learn their emotions, walk among them, communicate with them, and in some cases, even choose to live alongside them. The line between Pokemon and human is almost blurred entirely here, whilst also being able to understand the emotions of humans to almost a naive level. When they do reveal themselves as Pokemon and not humans, it's to save the place from the destruction of the mysterious evil darkness force that is talked about in the story. But in order to defeat it, they have to summon allies, providing the context that there is more than just one pair of Latias, but it isn't brought up again in the movies, so it's often forgotten about. What's interesting isn't simply that multiple Eon Pokemon existed, it's what that detail implies. The movie never presents Latias and Latios as isolated gods. Instead, they seem to belong to a larger community, one that almost has completely disappeared from history. The more I thought about it, the more the detail reminded me of real mythology. We rarely remember entire civilizations, but we do remember the stories of the individuals who chose to act when it mattered. Latios to me seems more like the protective older brother in comparison to Latias, but clearly still holds the same level of compassion, but they just express it differently. In the Pokemon games, Soldew is a simple held item, specifically made for these Pokemon which buffs their stats. But in the movie, it's explained that Soldew can be used like a powerful energy core, which can power the defense mechanism of Alto Mare. But after the Soldew is corrupted by evil and causes a massive tidal wave, Latios sacrifices himself to save the city and everyone in it from the destruction. This is where the story stops feeling like a distant legend and starts feeling like a personal reality. It's no longer just myth, they have real consequences for the city and for the people in it. During the sacrifice, Latios is able to turn itself into a new Soldew, which implies that the Soldew wasn't just a magical power source, it was something left behind from a Pokemon, a remnant of a bond that once existed, still protecting Alto Mare long after it was gone. Connecting this back to the lore from the beginning, you can start to see that the events of this movie are almost like history repeating itself once again. And with this perspective, the whole story is remolded. Towards the end of the movie, Latias uses her telepathic powers to let herself, Ash, and the others witness Latios' perspective. Floating along in a bubble among the stars, looking back upon Earth as it drifts quietly below. This doesn't feel like a resolution. If anything, it feels strangely peaceful. A bit melancholy, albeit, but also very beautiful for a death scene. From this, a new Soldew is formed, and with its power restored, Alto Mare returns to normal. Life goes on, unchanged. The city moves on as if nothing happened. Maybe Latios isn't here anymore, but his presence remains. Even if the world appears exactly the same, the memory of his existence preserves the truth of what happened. This isn't about Alto Mare anymore. It's about how moments stay with people. Even beyond death, even when no trace is left behind, the world still moves on. Latias and Latios reach beyond Pokemon itself. It isn't just about heroism, sacrifice, or mythology. It's about connection. The way it lingers even after everything else is gone. The details of the initial conflict are deliberately vague, but that's not the point. What matters is the feeling it leaves behind. The bonds formed in moments that cannot be repeated. I started this video focusing on the lore, but by the end of it, it wasn't really about that anymore. It just made me appreciate these two a lot more than I used to, so I just wanted to share that. If there's anything to take away from this, it's that the things we care about don't always feel important in the moment, but that doesn't make any of them less meaningful when we look back on them. Maybe the point isn't just about letting go, but about realizing how much meaning can exist in the things we only fully understand in hindsight. In the end, what stays behind isn't just the story, but the connection it creates, and the feeling that something meaningful was shared, even when it cannot be held on to.